How to scale your property business. This was a talk by Adam Lawrence at a recent Baker Street property meet. It's really one to watch because if you've got 4 or 5 properties and wondering how to build the infrastructure in your property business to really scale and take it up a notch without providing all the hassle that normally comes with that, then this is a must-watch talk for you. If you're new to this channel, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell icon and like us as well. We put out new content each and every week. It's all dedicated to helping you be more successful in property. This talk was filmed at the Baker Street Property Meet, which is the UK's #1 property networking event for property entrepreneurs. We get 200 plus property investors come and join us each month. If you haven't been, then make sure you join us this month. For details of this month's event, visit www.bakerstreetpropertymeet.com. But for now, enjoy Adam Lawrence's talk.
Thanks very much, Ranjan. I think I can only serve to disappoint after those 2 great speakers, so please accept my apologies in advance. So this is written to be about a 4-hour presentation that I'm going to deliver in 15 minutes, so that should be fun. Just going to speak at 10 times the speed. And it is called A Magnificent 7 Ways to Scale Your Property Business. I'm obviously not going to be able to get into as much detail as I'd like to, but I am going to throw a lot of content at you, so hold on tight. So I did an MBA, not at as illustrious an institution as the last speaker, unfortunately, so I won't even tell you where because it's not as good as London Business School. But what they taught me was when you do a presentation, you tell me what you're going to tell me, then you tell me, then you tell me what you told me. So that's what I'm going to do. So a very, very small amount about me. I've got a very non-vanilla career path. I was a sports arbitrage trader, which is kind of like an options trader for those who work in the city or know people that work in the city. Pretty much unemployable, always have been, always will be. And for the last 8 years, have been pretty much a full-time property investor. So I have, as Ranjan says, I've bought 200 units in the last 8 years, of which the majority are in the last 4. So I've built quite a big resi portfolio and always have to disagree with him that buy-to-let is dead, but we'll save that for another day. So Magnificent 7, I do adore the numbers side of it. I was very much numbers driven in what I did for a living beforehand, and I still am. Plans, always important, fail to plan to fail, etc. Money, it's tough without money. Andrew's talked about quite a few deals that he's done without any money, so it's not impossible, as you know. But it's tough without money. Resources, partners, I've been big on partners in property, which is a network that I co-founded alongside Sue Sims. But I've also done around about 8 figures in JVs with people, so I've got a reasonable amount of experience in partnering. And of course, opportunities. It's very tough to do things without opportunities. And I think probably the #1 thing that I see, I do a little bit of consultancy work for investors, quite a few who sit in front of me quite confused because there is a whole world of information out there and there are a whole number of strategies out there and they just don't really know where to go next. And the one thing they're all lacking is focus. So I do want to talk about focus. And then, what to remember, words of wisdom, they're not coming from me. And then opportunities of interest. So, yes, my academic background, as I said, a mere 2 master's degrees, PP at Oxford, and I have put it up there, Warwick Business School, where I got my MBA. And I also worked in wealth management. I worked in boutique wealth management in Geneva in Switzerland back in the last decade. I was also heavily involved in online trading, so I left my job in Switzerland when I was making about 5 times as much from my online trading as I was from my job in wealth management. And then, yes, post-MBA worked briefly inside one of the top 10 UK lenders, which was extremely insightful on the credit risk, mortgage risk, operational risk side of things for me. And then, yes, of course, the important stuff, property. And, yeah, quick big up to my wife because she says I never say anything about her, so just to prove her wrong, really. Okay, so yeah, justice has a number. They do say that in the film. So I know that it's not everybody's favourite subject. I bear in mind I've just followed an investment banker and an accountant, so that doesn't hold for those guys. But I always do say the simple thing, you know, you can't abdicate from the numbers. You might not love them. If you don't, find someone who does understand them and work with those people if you need to, however you need to. And then, yeah, what's important in a portfolio? Bit controversial about cash flow because I think Sometimes cash flow is used to sell deals, and sometimes what's said will be the cash flow doesn't turn out to be the cash flow. So that can happen as we sort of go through from simple buy-to-let through to HMOs, through to serviced accommodation. I'm really interested in bottom lines, but not all the money you make from property, in fact, most of the money you'll make from property won't actually be cash flow. Long-term versus short-term, so I always use examples of if you run a very intensive trading business, and it doesn't have to be a property trading business, but if it is property, it could be serviced accommodation, could be flipping properties, that's going to give you money in the now, but once you've been paid, you're not going to get paid anymore. So you've only got that once. Whereas flip that round, you might do something like get involved in development or land promotion where it's going to take you a year, 2 years, 3 years to get paid. Or you might build a portfolio which is going to pay you all the way along and then pay you on exit or pay you for the whole of your life and potentially for the whole of your legacy as well. Big fan of ROCE, return on capital employed. I hate people talking about yield, return on investment, stuff like that because it gets misused. And I'm a huge fan of what I call RORE, return on realisable equity. So if you can't have it in your pocket, then that's really the money that you need to consider. It doesn't matter if you've got 50 grand's worth of equity, if you've got a 100 grand tax bill, if you sell the property, because you've got no realisable equity where you've got negative. And yes, when to be paid, that's important on the timeline concept. So, onto plans, best laid plans. Lots of people have different opinions. 1 year plans, 3 year plans, 5 year plans. I think I'm very big on them always being fluid, because if you set a plan and you want it to go like that, day 1 or 2, it's probably going to change. You're probably going to get quite upset, but I think you do need, the plan isn't just for you. It is to communicate with investors. It is to communicate with funders. It is to communicate with everybody. There's obviously private stuff and public stuff in there, but it does need to include your strategy. You've got to give people confidence you know what you're doing. And you've got to talk to people about why are they going to work with you? What are your USPs? What can you do differently? And then I like to also include a bit about why I do what I do. Some people would say, well, hold on, if you've got all these properties, if you've done all these things, why do you carry on doing it? What gets you out of bed in the morning? And it also helps you find common ground with people sometimes and helps you build some of that trust that Aisha was talking about. Where do you invest? What do you invest in? How do you do it? Obviously, you're not going to give them chapter and verse on all of that, otherwise they may well just go and do it themselves. But you do need to give them an idea. And also then, what do you need from them as a partner? Because it's not just about money. It could be a whole number of things that you need from them in terms of support. And I like to, the best tools in business are always really simple, I think. So SWOT analysis would be one of those. And a good SWOT analysis will include assessments of you as an individual, as a team, what you can do, but also the opportunities and threats will bear in mind the wider market, which I know we're going to be talking about after the break. But yeah, I always say don't worry too much about plans, because plans are fluid. They have to be fluid, so don't stress. And then money, well, you can't really talk about property without talking about money. I would always say, the same thing really. I've happily only met a few people that life has only been about money for them. And the only thing I've noticed that runs through, the only theme that's ever run through those people is they've been deeply unhappy. And I think I've never met a person who says it's all about the money who is an exception to that rule. So I think it's one of the big things that will make you work with someone or not work with someone, realistically. I mean, obviously you need to know the basic things like how much have you got, where are you going to get money from? Are you someone who is going to be good at delayed gratification? Or do you need something that's going to pay in the now? And you're going to pay a price for that in the long term, realistically, compound interest. What do you need? When do you need it? And then in terms of, one of the things about particularly limited companies, Section 24, I wouldn't say in a room of a couple of hundred people that I'm a big fan, because that would be going a bit far. But I think one of the things that it's done for people that they haven't necessarily realised is it's forced them into company structures. And company structures, particularly in a low corporation tax environment, can be extremely useful, because all of that money you don't necessarily pay in personal tax is being reinvested. And that differential seems to be getting broader and broader. And then, yeah, your why is important. What is it about? Is it about legacy? Is it about luxury? Is it about philanthropy? Is it about something else? You need to know. I remember when I say, I bought about 40, 45 properties in the first 4 years I was doing this. And I was feeling pretty cocky about it, thought it was pretty brilliant. And I went on a business retreat, I went on a mastermind retreat, and the person who was running the retreat, it made a big impression on me because she knew exactly what her why was. And it really blew me away because I realised then in that moment that I really didn't. And it affected me, and I thought about that for the whole week we were away, and then I spent a few months afterwards sort of resolving some of that, and I feel a lot more comfortable. And then I went out and bought 150 properties in 4 years on the back of it. So, resources are obviously massive. People are really important. I have a really great team of people. I couldn't do what I do without them. I've built them one piece at a time. Some of them have worked with me in different capacities for 10 or 15 years. They're incredibly important. You can't look at staff as a cost. You've got to look at them as your biggest investment. People say that in business, and it's very, very true. You need people. Of course, as well, you need systems. If you don't have systems, if you don't build, if you don't start with the end in mind, if you don't build to scale, if you aren't using some of the technological solutions that are out there these days, and there are many of them and they're fantastic, then you're going to break at some point. A lot of what I've done has been trying to look ahead at what the problems are and then try to solve them before I get there. And of course, I haven't been successful in seeing all of them, but it's definitely helped me go very quickly. And it's also about where do you see yourself. Some people will, at 76 years old, still be kind of loving working in their business. That's what they want to do. They want to be the managing director. I try to be more of the chief investment officer style character. Some people genuinely do want to be on the beach, and you need to know that. And then I was at 40, 45 properties with one person part-time helping me out. It was starting to take a lot of my time doing the management and that side of things. And it's a very simple calculation. I think in any business, you've got to look at your hourly rate. What's your time worth? And if my time was I better doing deals that were worth 20 grand, 30 grand, 50 grand on the day? Or was I better off doing a job that I could pay someone a management fee for or pay someone to work underneath me to do? You know the answer to that question. Second line of defence is massive. That's where a lot of people do get stuck if they're trying to scale, because at some point you are going to need more senior people in your team, more responsibility, more ability. It's going to cost you more money, but they are going to stop the difficult situations from getting to you. And that is a real key part of a hierarchy that some people who've got really quite big businesses unfortunately don't figure out. And these are the things that you need to consider. You know, acquisitions, who's going to do them? How are you going to do them? Can you delegate that? At what point will you be able to delegate someone doing your acquisitions for you? I'm halfway there, for reference, not all the way there yet. Yet financing and size, refurbishments. Are you going to run a building company? A lot of people who run volume operations decide to have building companies. I'm pretty much against that myself, but for reasons I won't go into right now. Management, do you want to contract it out? If you do, I recommend, again, doing business with people you know, like and trust. I recommend having plans A, B, C and D for agents in various locations. I control 80% of mine in-house. The other 20% is about doing business with agents who've brought deals to me, who still bring deals to me. And then PropTech, I think it's absolutely key to stay informed. So I have to mention partners because, as I say, I've done lots and lots of JVs with a whole number of different people. One of the reasons why I have multiple partners is so I don't build a dependency on one person. I think that's been quite key to my success because obviously anything can happen. With one partner, you've got a problem. With 10 partners, if one of those falls off somewhere along the line, you've got 9 people who probably, if you've done your job, want to buy them out. Degrees of leverage, how much leverage do you want to use? Residential versus commercial, it's an important thing to bear in mind. And of course, when you partner with people, you're going to give a bit of the pie away. So I've had to work a lot harder because I've had to do 3 or 4 times as many deals in order to achieve what some people could theoretically achieve on their own. But my mindset around that has been, I'm not going to worry about 100% of the pie. I'm going to think I'd rather have 10% of a really, really big pie than 100% of a small one. And I think all of those things are key. People make a lot of mistakes in partnerships. They go wrong all the time. And most of it is because they don't look at one of those 6 things there. They don't define those things. They don't define roles and responsibilities is a key one. They don't define exit. They don't define what happens if something goes wrong. They don't define force majeure. So opportunities, as I've said there, I learned this lesson more than once really. You should always know if opportunity knocks, you've got to answer it. I think the 2 things you've really got to take away from this are, if you find something that works, keep doing it, because it'll stop working pretty soon. I've learned that a whole number of times. And Ranjan pretty much said that earlier, didn't you? And you've just got to crush it while you can. Very Gary Vaynerchuk, but you've got to get in there and crush it. I really believe that. Why now for property? I could, again, looking at the media, the headlines. It's always all terrible news. Why would you buy property now? Well, I'll tell you why. Interest rates, long-term yields are still at the very lowest rates that they've ever been. And they're getting lower all the time. We're at like 0.79 for 10-year bonds. That represents incredibly cheap money. And if you're not borrowing, you've got to ask yourself if you're ever going to borrow, realistically. And the last one, I will just leave you with that quote, really, the Michael Jordan one, really. Focus like a laser, not a flashlight. Because I think so many people think they get worried about the strategies that other people are using. I don't know why. It's one of the things I'd spend absolutely zero time worrying about what everyone else is doing. I worry about what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. And you've got to do that. You've got to be strong. You've got to be strong in the mind. You've got to have mental walls. Mindset is king. And I'm more than out of time, so I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much.
If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you're not a subscriber, what are you waiting for? Subscribe, hit the bell icon. As soon as we upload, we'll let you know. And enjoy these. They're all dedicated to helping you be more successful in property. Happy investing!